David, don't forget him. Blood for blood, only then will the curse be broken. One prophecy, one sacrifice, one man's impossible choice. He rose from poverty into power, but the higher he climbed, the louder her voice became. You bled for me, but who will bleed for you? You can escape the village, but your soul cannot. The blood of Jesus speaks louder than any sacrifice. She bled for him, but Christ bled for us all.
The night it all began, the sky looked like it was grieving. Heavy clouds rolled across the heavens like dark giants, and thunder shook the earth with every roar. Lightning cut through the night, flashing so brightly it made the mud huts of Umueze village look like ghostly shadows. Rain hammered the rusty zinc rooftops, and the narrow footpaths turned into small rivers. Children clung to their mothers, and even the elders whispered that the spirits were walking freely. Inside one of the huts, a single oil lamp flickered. David, a young man of 23, sat hunched on a wooden stool, his elbows dug into his knees, his face buried in his palms. Before him, a raffia mat beside the fire, lay his younger sister, Mira. She was coughing violently, each spasm shaking her thin body. For weeks, she had been sick, and nothing worked. Herbs had failed, prayers had gone unanswered. Even the healers shook their heads in defeat. Her once bright face was now pale and hollow. But even as she coughed, Mira prayed. She clutched the small wooden cross that hung around her neck and whispered, "Lord, please bless my brother. Lift him higher. Don't let him die poor in this village." David turned away, his chest tightening. Every prayer she made tore into him. He loved her more than anything, but her words also reminded him of what he was not. He was strong, hardworking, and sharp-minded. Yet, what did he have to show for it? He passed licking moves for coins barely enough to buy soup. He often went to bed hungry. People in the village mocked him as cursed, a man destined to remain nothing. And now Mira, his only sister, his joy, his hope, was slipping away before his eyes. The rain outside pounded harder, and with it came something strange. A man entered the village as if the storm itself carried him. He wore a spotless white robe, untouched by mud, and his beard was streaked with grey. His eyes glinted strangely in the firelight, deep and sharp like polished stones. The villagers gathered quickly, drawn by curiosity and fear. Who would dare travel on such a night? The stranger lifted his staff and spoke, his voice rolling louder than thunder. "I am sent by heaven. I am Prophet Ananias. I come to announce destiny. Among you are those chosen for greatness, but their crowns are buried under suffering. Chains will break, but only if the price is paid." The people gasped. Some fell to their knees in awe. Could this be God's messenger? A prophet arriving in the middle of the storm? Surely it was no accident. David stood at the back of the crowd, arms folded, his face hard. He wanted to leave, to dismiss the man as another fraud. But then Ananias' eyes locked onto his. "You," the prophet cried, pointing directly at him. His voice trembled with force. "You are the chosen. Chains of poverty have bound you, but heaven has prepared a crown. If you are willing to pay the price, your crown will rise." The villagers erupted in murmurs. All eyes turned to David. His mother fell to the ground, weeping. The boy mocked as cursed. The boy who had never mattered was suddenly being called chosen. The words pierced David's soul. For so long he had dreamt of escape. For so long he had prayed for a way out of poverty's chains. Now someone was saying it was possible. That night Ananias summoned him alone. They met in the forest. The fire burned at the center, shadows dancing wildly. The smell of blood hung heavy in the air from a goat slaughtered as offering. The trees seemed to whisper as those spirits leaned closer to listen. "The cleansing must be complete," Ananias said, his eyes glowing in the firelight. "Heaven does not give crowns freely. Someone must pay the price, someone close to you. Their blood will open your destiny. Do not fear. This is the will of God." David's throat went dry. His mind filled with images of his mother, of Mira lying weak on the mat. His body shook, but his heart burned with desire. Could this be true? Could greatness really be this close? Surely the prophet told me the truth yet, he thought. Perhaps it was symbolic, a sacrifice of time, of old ways, something else. David whispered at last, though his lips trembled, I accept. The prophet smelled blood across his forehead and hissed strange words. It is done, he declared. Days later, Mira grew worse. She coughed until her body shook violently. David sat by her side, begging her not to leave him. He held her hand, trying to feed her water. But one night, her voice grew faint. She smiled weakly and whispered, Brother, don't forget Jesus. Then her hand went limp. Her chest stilled. The scream David released that night was so raw, so filled with pain, the entire village stopped in shock. They buried her before dawn. The people said her sickness was too strong, that it was her time. But David heard something else, a whisper deep inside. You traded me. That night, Mira came to him in a dream, her figure pale, her dress soaked in blood, her eyes hollow. She stood at the foot of his bed and whispered, You traded me. The walls shook with her voice. David woke screaming. From that moment, the hunting began. Soon after, doors opened strangely. An uncle abroad suddenly sent for him. Business deals fell into his hands with ease. Money flowed like water. In the city, David wore fine suits, drove shiny cars, and ate meals he had never dreamed of. People pointed and said, Truly, he is blessed. But Mira followed him. In hotel mirrors, her pale face appeared behind his. In the perfume of women, he smelled blood. At night, her cough echoed in the marble walls. In his dreams, she bled endlessly, whispering, You traded me. The more he prospered, the more he crumbled inside. He drank heavily to drown her voice. He chased women to forget. He threw himself into work to silence the whispers, and every night she came. One evening, during a lavish party, David looked into his glass of wine and saw it swirling red, thick like blood. He dropped it, shattered the glass. Guests laughed, thinking he was drunk, but he knew better. Another night, he woke to find his silk bedsheet soaked, dripping with red. He screamed, tearing them off. But when the lights came on, they were dry. He was losing his mind. His body grew weak, his eyes hollow. His soul felt crushed by guilt. He started seeing Mira even in daylight. Once, as he gave a speech at a business meeting, he saw her standing in the corner, blood dripping from her dress. He froze, unable to speak. The crowd whispered. He left in shame. At his breaking point, David considered ending his own life. He stood on the balcony of his high-rise apartment, staring down at the city lights. Just as he was about to jump, he heard her cough behind him. He spun around, and there was nothing, only silence. Shaking, he stumbled into the street, drunk and broken. That was when he had heard the sound of drums and singing. A street crusade filled the night with voices shouting praises. He tried to walk past, but then a preacher's voice rang out like thunder. You who are running from your past, stop. You who are haunted by guilt, listen. Your sister's blood cannot save you. Only one bled for you, and his name is Jesus. The words pierced David's soul. He fell to his knees right there on the street, tears pouring down his face. I killed her. I traded her life for my destiny, he cried. The preacher knelt beside him, placed a hand on his shoulder and said, Your sister's blood cannot redeem you, but the blood of Jesus can. He carried your guilt to the cross. And there, on the dusty road of a foreign street, David broke. He whispered, Forgive me, Lord. And for the first time in years, peace entered his heart. David returned to Umueza village. People mocked him for throwing away his riches, calling him cursed and foolish. But he no longer cared. He sold his businesses and built something new, a safe house for girls, a place where they would be fed, protected, and taught. He called it Mira's Refuge. He filled it with books, death, and teachers. Girls who might have been abandoned, traded, or forgotten now had a place of safety. Every evening, David walked to Mira's grave. He laid fresh flowers and whispered, "You bled for me, but Christ bled for us all. Your prayers carried me when I was blind. I will carry your memory forever." The villagers, once mocking him, began to listen. Slowly, they came to see the change in him. They saw the children in Mira's refuge laughing, studying, living with hope. And they asked about Jesus, who had given David peace. Mira's ghost no longer haunted him, but her presence lived on. In the refuge, in the children's laughter, in the peace that filled his heart. David had learned the truth, written in pain and blood. No one else's suffering can save him. Only Jesus' blood brings true freedom.
Please subscribe to watch more of our videos. Thank you.